Hey, what's up? I'm Ros Gold-Onwude.
And I'm Metta World Peace.
And welcome to Sharing the Wealth at Fountain House. Come with us. What a room. What a room.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. I just want to exhale because I'm so happy this is happening. And I want to welcome you to the season 2 finale of Sharing the Wealth. It's a 2-part series put on for Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're doing this in partnership with Fountain House. And you know, they've already introduced me, but my name is Ros Gold-Onwude. Everybody calls me Ros, and I'm a board member here. First and foremost, I want to thank Fountain House. Thank you, Fountain House, for your enthusiasm and partnership to do something positive and dope in the space. I want to thank the Wellness Unit, which is where we are right now, and the entire team, the Event Advisory Committee. Special shout out to people like Anna, who was just talking, Sophia, Whitney. There's so many people who worked very hard to make this happen. This room never looks this way. I mean, even just the adjustments, the media, the coordination, it's so beautiful. New York City is in the building tonight. I want to give a big shout out to friends and family who believe in the importance of mental health. There's so many people in the room that simply just love my little sister Annie and me. There's so many people who are supporters of Fountain House, and you know, it means a lot. I want to thank all of the media and press that we just finished speaking to. Thank you for your coverage of this event. Special shout out, because there's certainly individuals, but there's a couple of groups that have pulled up in support. Big shout out to New Heights, New York City Basketball is in the building. Shout out to Sala, a lot of Sala family in the building. And I know there's a great group of leaders here coming from Fortune and Forks. There's so many. Hey. As well as minorities in sports business. Thank you all for your support. And for everyone in the room, your time in coming here. Welcome to Fountain House. You are here. We are in the heart of it. This Fountain House is a national nonprofit that serves people living with severe mental illness, and they've been in existence doing this work for nearly 80 years. Where are members and staff of Fountain House, people who are in the community? Wow. First of all, shout out to the Fountain House community. It's one of the joys of my life to become part of this family, and thank you for opening the space here today to people who are new to the building. For people who are new, this is a very special space. This big, huge building here, right in the middle of Hell's Kitchen, is here serving people. Thousands of people come in and out of it that are living with severe mental illness. It allows these people to live with dignity, to have community, to find people to create friendships and relationships with. They provide volunteer work, jobs, internships, roles that members are a part of. And that's part of the theory here on treating the whole person, and that community and responsibility can be a form of therapy. And with all of these roles, everyone's contributing to something here at Fountain House, and it gives you pride, it gives you something to be tethered to, and something to step up to. And I know in the examples that I've seen, it's been a very useful method. So right now we're in the Wellness Unit. If you look upstairs, there's a gym there. To my left, there's a kitchen, so people can work out. There's a kitchen. There's classes to teach people how to cook, life skills. There's a place downstairs where you can garden, things like mint and lavender. There's multiple outdoor patios. There's a space to relax, to be quiet, to enjoy beauty within the city. There's an education unit. There's a beautiful library, and there's even an art gallery, which is filled with exhibits and installations made by the members themselves. There's social workers and therapists and people that can help you apply to college, apply for jobs, apply for funding, help you with paperwork, help you with social work. There's social workers here. So my little sister Annie is a member here, and she is definitely my why. And my motivation is on why I'm pulling up here. I get nothing out of this but the fact that I am grateful to Fountain House. They've absolutely changed the life of our entire family, and certainly my sister Annie. So both my parents are gone now, but my mother, when she was here, she battled for nearly 20 years with early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. And, you know, before the end years, I just remember so many years of our life being really chaotic as a family, and we were constantly just kind of going where the wind took us. And, you know, we lost our apartment. For many years, we were homeless. For my mother, that looked like literally being on the streets or being in and out of shelters. My father, while he was here, he did go back to Nigeria, so he was gone. And then my sister, you know, we were trying to find help, whether through social works or diagnoses and medicine and therapy. Annie spent a lot of time in psych wards. So that's kind of what was going on. And at the same time, when we were in the worst of times and without a home, it lined up with me going to college. And so I played ball. Ball saved my life, basketball. And so when this was happening, I was in college, I was at Stanford. I had a basketball team, I had a coach, I had a support system. Let me say it again, basketball saved my life in ways I didn't even know what was happening at the time. It kind of softened the blow of the trauma that was happening in my family. So if I say that ball was keeping me from having nowhere to go, I would say that in many ways I could say Fountain House, or at least access to it, was one of the things that helped save Annie's life. And she was out here navigating a lot of this alone. And so she would come here almost every day. And one of the success stories that happened of Annie coming to Fountain House is, you know, she got her GED. It took her 2 times. Then she was able to get her associate's degree. She went to Borough of Manhattan Community College. Then Annie continued for her bachelor's, and she got her bachelor's at NYU. And, you know, she's been a bright light, an inspiration for our family of all the things she's doing, and I'm so proud of her. And so, when she graduated as Big Sis, basically I just wanted to support her and join her in doing something positive and finding a way to take control over what has given so much chaos in our life and give back. So, we created Sharing the Wealth, and we did that in 2024. And Sharing the Wealth is a series that highlights different leaders of different industries, and we talk to them not about their resumes. We don't care what college you went to. We want to talk about the strategies of mental health and wellness that help you navigate the ups and downs of life as you try to pursue your career in life. And the first year we did it only for Fountain House members. And what we found in these conversations was that the messages were for everyone. It was incredible. The room was just amazing with the vulnerability and what we were sharing about, you know, these boundaries being set, or what are you fueling yourself with? Are you sleeping enough? Like all sorts of things, safe spaces, prioritization. And so, you know, we found that no matter who you are and what you've accomplished, we're all human and we're all going through it. So this year for season 2, for Mental Health Awareness Month, we've opened it up to everyone. You'll notice Annie's not here today. And, you know, that's been a tough one for me. So she wasn't here last week too. Annie's not feeling great right now. And she's working really hard to get back to feeling like the best version of herself and get back to feeling, you know, stable. It is really, really hard to do this program without her voice. It is not the same without Annie. I'm glad we decided to still do it. I do miss her voice in this program. And, you know, the best part of doing this program is that I get to do it alongside my sister, And everybody who saw season 1 knows how cool it was to see Annie rise to the occasion. She really shined. So I think this is a great example of how mental health is really real, and that there's ups and downs, there's good days and bad days. And in this thing too, I know in our family story, there's so many starts and stops and then restarts. So when Annie's ready to restart and rejoin, I'm really excited to do this again with her. So, to honor her voice, I want to play this video recap from our first session. And you guys who don't know Annie, and some of you might already do, but you get to hear from Annie. So let's take a look, please.
Hi, I'm Metta World Peace, and this is my big sister.
Yep, I'm Big Sis. I'm Ros Gold-Onwude, and today, as sisters, we are launching Sharing the Wealth.
Definitely want to see a brighter future for people living with mental illness, so that's really important to me. Hugely immense accomplishment of mine to put this together with my sister and a team of other thoughtful workers and members here at Fountain House, so it's really, really special to me.
It means a lot for us to be able to partner with Fountain House on Sharing the Wealth, because we know firsthand just how integral Fountain House has been in Annie's journey.
They helped me go to college. They helped me to understand healthy eating. We created Sharing the Wealth because we really want to bring wellness to a community of people at Fountain House who can see the careers and wellness practices and ups and downs of successful professionals and gain insights. And we had intimate Q&As, question and answers, talking about this wonderful field, spectrums of professionals we brought in, and it was amazing. So we really had a good time, yeah.
And actually, this is a cool picture. You'll see all of our past guests that we've had on Sharing the Wealth. Shayna Stevenson, Chief Brand Officer of New York Liberty. We had Jadena, Grammy-nominated music artist. We had Joaquin Noah, 2-time NBA All-Star. Steve Pammon, President of Versus, music executive. And then last week, for this series, we had Kirsten Ferguson, who is a well-known, amazing Peloton instructor. And that brings me to today's guest, and who we are closing this series out with. For the season 2 finale of Sharing the Wealth, Queensbridge native, New York City native, of LaSalle High School basketball, of St. John's University basketball, NBA champion with the Los Angeles Lakers, NBA All-Star, NBA Defensive Player of the Year, now an entrepreneur and mental health advocate. Please help me in welcoming to the stage, Metta World Peace. Metta, what's up?
Everything is great. It's good to be here. We met, we was on a panel together, obviously ran across each other throughout our NBA career. You're on one side, I'm on the other side. And this is a great, just a great day.
It absolutely is. We were on this panel, and then for one of the questions, Metta was talking about his journey, and I sat there and I said, I want to be part of telling that story. And then we started to talk about our passion for mental health, and we're like, yo, we're gonna do something together. And so when I called Metta, he was like, yeah, I'm there. Like, that was the relationship, that's his heart. Interestingly enough, you'll see that Metta is wearing a Fountain House shirt. He's already in the community. That was not his original outfit. We have been on a bunch of journeys already, but the cool thing is, as Metta came here, he said he got a call from his mother because he has a tie, a family tie, to Fountain House that he's already connected. Can you share what was going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to share. I'm going to grab my phone because I had to charge it because my mother asked me to read this message. So when we were young, we always heard Fountain House. I grew up in Queensbridge, but my family comes from Far Rockaway. Yes. That's where we are from, right? And so 8 years old, 7 years old, 9, one of those ages, you would hear my uncle say, hey, I'm going to the Fountain House, or where's Morris? Uncle Morris, he's at the Fountain House when he's coming. I just kept hearing this word. I'm like, I want to go to the Fountain House. You know what I mean? Like, where's it going? So my uncle, so I'm gonna get into a couple stories in no particular order, but I have to read this. My mom, when she saw the post go up on Facebook, she said, son, I can't believe you're going to the Fountain House. I said, I'm going to the Fountain House? I knew I was doing something, with my husband. I knew it was the WELLth, and I was like, ooh, WELLth. I knew that was really cool. I was like, really cool.
Play on wellness.
I like that.
Absolutely.
Let me get to this thing. I don't want to hold you all. So my mom said, she said, hey, Ron. She calls me, she don't call me Metta. She said, I don't know if you know this, but the Fountain House place that you're talking about is the actual place that helped Morris out, my Uncle Morris. After years and years of searching, not finding the right place and doctors for his mental health, Mommy, my grandma, we call her Hattie, Ma, call her Ma, M.A., got him in the Fountain House, and it worked wonders for him. This place works miracles. It was hard for Mommy when she was going through this with Uncle Morris, but she never gave up. Fountain House was her and Uncle Morris's miracle. And then she also said, and then I said, let me see what I said. I said, oh wow, I remember. And then she says, the doctors used to tell Morris he would never be able to live on his own. And with the help of the Fountain House, he's been living on his own for years now. Keep in mind, I was 1985, I was 6. And then she says one more thing. She says, every time the doctors would say something like that to Uncle Morris, Mommy would get up with him, walk out of the office, and then she finally found the Fountain House and Dr. Bell. I don't know Dr. Bell. And I can never forget how much Mommy gave herself to help Morris. She never gave up hope. Fountain House fulfilled that hope, goals that Mommy had for Uncle Morris, for his mental health. I hope you can find a way to share Mommy's story. I am now Mama. And it's really a happy ending story to tell someone who was struggling, not to give up. And she said, sorry for the long text. So we in the building now. Now we here.
He said, I need a t-shirt.
Yeah. Everything I do, I'm passionate about. If I'm happy about something, I'm passionate about it. So let's go. We in the building.
Yeah. I love that energy. I love that energy so much. And well, let's start with origins. You share a text from your mother. Can you tell us? I want to know what it was like growing up in the projects of Queensbridge and how your life and your household, your parents, your family, how that influenced the way you showed up in the world.
Yeah, environment, sometimes things is normal, and you carry that with you. Sometimes you gotta protect yourself, and you gotta protect, your physical self, your mental self, and then it gets you to a point of success, one would call success. Sometimes financial success is not success, right? And then sometimes finance tap into your emotions. You'll see people that are very successful commit suicide, sex addiction, drug addiction, spending addiction, become bipolar. We see our good friend Delonte West who's going through some things and we're supporting him, and Mark Cuban did some great things for him. So just because you make it doesn't really take away things you've gone through. So for me, it was hard to navigate when I first got into the league, because I'm from Queensbridge Project, the biggest federal housing project in America. So you're talking about the largest federal housing project in America. And you got to navigate your way to stay out of trouble. Right before I went to St. John's, my brother was in jail for 10 years of drug trafficking. And I thought I was going to have him at St. John's on my way to the NBA, so I have my brother just by my side. That didn't happen. So my first couple of years, even though I grew up with my mom and dad, and after they separated, my dad's in the building. What's up, Dad? But after they separated, it was tough, right? And then, but I did see my dad every day. He came to see me every day, which is like, guy's incredible. Played a lot of basketball, and but these things, it's hard to detach street from profession, especially when you're somebody like myself. So it took me a long time to detach. What's the difference between being from the streets and then being a professional basketball player? Because I wore my emotions on my sleeve. Like, people saw me, people knew me.
Right.
Peace, Metta World Peace, and you also know, that other dude from Queensbridge. But then, why? Why is that? What's your why? Why are you this? And then as you start to answer these questions for yourself, you start to understand yourself a little bit more, and now you're able to talk about it.
How do you let go of traumas that you experienced or that were put onto you in childhood?
Time, for one, but also therapy. Luckily my dad and mom put me in therapy at 13 years old. It was in Queensbridge, it was a social worker, and then I was able to put that energy somewhere. And it was the first time I experienced it. So as I was going to high school, college, MBA, I already was doing therapy, so it was normal for me to just talk to somebody, which is why when I was in MBA, to tell somebody that I'm seeing a therapist, people would say, wow, you're crazy for thinking you're a therapist on national television. For me, it was just like, she helped me out, I'm a thinker. And it was very normal to me, so I'm really grateful for my parents.
It's really interesting that you had such an early relationship with therapy, and it was a tool that you were using since childhood. You've mentioned that you've had proximity to mental illness within your family. What's your relationship with medication?
The relationship is, we had members of the family that was on medication. My auntie, like I said, she passed away in Creekmore, so she passed away. She's schizophrenic, and she actually died in a psych ward. I had a brother and sister that was in psych wards. Some functional medication, some can be out in the community, and some can't. Right? So going through that as a player, sometimes I can control everything else. I can help others, but I can't help my own. And that's like stressful, being out on the court. I can lock up Hall of Famers quite easily. I can do all that and control the amount of points that they score, sometimes under 10, or we'll get to that later. But I can't, control my own situation. So there's no control, right? Because you don't go on, I don't know about you, but I don't go into the court forgetting about my family. So, that was really tough to deal with, but at some point in time I had to take care of myself. So as I started to really take care of myself, things started to become about basketball, which is why I got embedded in the mental health community, because I needed to understand, like, how do I help, my own family and others. So I just became all into the community.
Was basketball a safe space for you?
Basketball is a safe space, but the way I played the game, I played from the point of survival.
What does that mean?
Survival means you lock down, bite down. Right? But basketball should be played at a median. It should be played from a center of calm. It's not supposed to be played with that much emotion. Now, yeah, sometimes you'll get emotional. You'll dunk on somebody, you hit a big three-point shot, Jalen Brunson smells it. Everybody got different things they do. Basketball is emotional, right? But you're supposed to have control, and when you don't have control, it's hard to perform. So for me, sometimes basketball wasn't the best for me.
What was good for you?
You know, I think being away from the game was actually better, but when you play basketball, you know, you get away, but you're not really getting away, you're escaping. So when you're trying to escape, right, where are you escaping to? Right, so you gotta face, so eventually I started to face it. When I started to face my issues or fears or face different trauma, different things like that, then I was able to address the issue and really heal it. Right, really not just put a Band-Aid over something by playing basketball, games over, then if you're drinking, now you don't realize that it's a depressant, you're actually drinking a depressant, thinking you're, you know, washing away the pain, like we were saying in rap songs, right? Or that's not really happening. What's happening is you're compounding stress. And I didn't know that until later, so you're mixing a little alcohol with a little weed, with stress that you forgot about because maybe you had some drinks, but it's still there. It's waiting to explode. So as I started to learn this stuff about my body and different things, I started to say, okay, let me not drink as much. Let me just kind of go about life differently, become more healthy and more aware.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there in talking about how drinking and turning to the bottle and it compounds things that were already going on for you. But you also talked about all the ways that you can show up on the court, and we saw so much from you. Like
Yeah.
when you see Metta World Peace, you see your joy, you see your smile. We've gotten to know you through music, but we've also seen so many visuals of you angry
Yeah.
and in fights and in mood swings. And so, were you able to identify where that anger was coming from?
Yeah, you know, when I was out on the court, was a point in time where I wasn't having fun. I would go to practice like it's a game. So, you know, full out, ready to get it going in practice, right? And it was just so much energy and passion. And I had one practice where Coach Carlisle said, okay, we're gonna only do 20% today. We don't want to go too hard. I said, no, we're going 100%. You know, and it was like, I couldn't wait to get to practice, and now you're gonna tell me we're going 20% today? So I kind of disrupted practice, just going hard, still on the ball, just going hard, and in the end. And
While people are having a walkthrough?
Walkthrough. it was definitely a walkthrough. And it was just like, you know, sometimes it was just escape. It wasn't a place. I wasn't happy until, you know, after I started to really embrace therapy. I would say that Houston Rocket. Actually, it started in Sacramento. Coach Adelman really changed the way I thought about the game. But then if you look at my Houston series against the Lakers, where we almost beat them, it wasn't for Adelman breaking his foot. You know, I love the Lakers, but you know. It wasn't for T-Mac hurting his back, you know, this kind of stuff. But I played very well, and it was the best I ever felt physically and mentally. And I was actually on the court using the different the techniques that we practiced with my therapist. And that led to the Lakers year. Now I was still pretty good, but when you play with Kobe, you look like a role player. I was still nice. I just want to say, I was nice, but I couldn't show Kobe was just incredible. But if you look at, when I think my psychologist, I said Dr. Santi, she's from Houston. So I carried that from Houston, and I continued sports like therapy. And you know, when you're on the court, you just can't say, hey, I'm stressed, I'm just gonna stop. You can't just start meditating on a fast break. You know what I mean? Like what? So I had to learn how to meditate in live action. You know, because like when you look at the Detroit series, I got a technical foul. We was tied up to go to the finals. I got a technical foul, uncontrollable. They hit 2 free throws. They scored 2. They hit 2 free throws, go up 2, then score, get the ball back, go up 4, win by 4 to go to the finals and win. You know, so for me it was like I need to have control. How do I have control on the court? So many things like that. I was really on a mission to become well-rounded.
Can you go more in depth on what some of those techniques and practices were that you did with your therapist to prepare you to succeed at a high level and perform at a high level? I know you mentioned meditation, breath work. What else did you do, and what does it look like to practice those techniques?
The breathing was incredible. Like, she would do things like say, okay, clench your body and now release, right? And she'd say, you got tension here in your jaws, tension in your shoulders, tension in your, I never realized I was just carrying tension because sometimes we just up like this and you just don't relax it. But sometimes that's tension building. And when I learned how to breathe, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, and I actually was doing that on the court, literally running full speed, playing defense, playing offense, but breathing at the same pace through contact. And I didn't know I was able to do that. So in the game, I'm just focused on my breath, right? And focus on. She asked me to pick certain places on the court, and just focus on that. And it really helped me out a lot because if a player hit me, I'm hitting back, right? But the problem with that is you're gonna get ejected. That's a huge problem. Like, yeah, I'm still showing you like I'm about that, but there's no place for that on the court, especially when you're a main action. So for someone to know they can get under my skin, I can't let them do that, right? I can't let them get under my skin no matter what. So then, so I had to really work on that.
Was it about creating control? Was it about going slower?
It wasn't about going slower. It was really about staying centered. It was really about focusing on the center. And that's when you get with Phil Jackson. I was with my therapist early. I got to the Lakers, and I got with Phil Jackson. That was a blessing because he's all about meditation. He's all about breathing. And I actually changed my name to Metta. I really became inspired by the way he coached us. He would shut the lights off and have everybody breathing at the same pace and have sage going in the room. And we meditated multiple times a week. And that really it changed my life. It taught me that life is bigger than basketball. It's really about you.
Can you describe what your head felt like, what your mind felt like as you were trying to navigate a pro career? You have spoken about having anxiety, depression, mood swings. What are words you would use to describe how on your best days and then also on your worst days, dealing with how your mind was working?
I think when I first married at the age of 19, I had one breakdown going to a game on the 294 in Chicago. I got drafted to Chicago. It was the only one I really had, but it was a big one. I had to pull over, and there's a breakdown in the middle of the highway on the shoulder, and so that was tough. And really, two personalities at that point. And you're trying to find yourself. And that's a real thing when you're trying to actually find yourself, who you are. And I think people shouldn't be afraid of that feeling. It's actually a natural feeling. When you go through that, I think the only thing that's happening is you're finding yourself, right? And that's okay. When I started to understand that was okay, I started to say, okay, I'm gonna weather the storm. I'm just gonna weather the storm and I'm gonna get through it. And it also, like I said, I identified that alcohol was a big problem, so I started to have to slow down on the.
How was alcohol popping up in your life? Was it just social occasions, or were you literally I need a drink to numb what I'm feeling?
Well, I never used to drink when I was younger. When you get to college, you go to a party, you just have a drink, and then you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then you get to the NBA, and it's like, oh wow, I made real money. I can actually pay for a drink. Oh, drinks for everybody.
Right.
But then you don't realize that it's compounding. If you're bringing stress from the game, home, or stress from home to the game, and you don't even realize what's happening to you, then that's where it starts to become an issue.
So I was, thinking about your entire body of work, and one thing that I have found that's consistent when you talk about any type of mental health issue or even mental illness is a consistent theme of isolation. And you'll often hear people kind of being alone when they deal with these issues. I know that that's something my sister has dealt with. So I was watching Quiet Storm. It's a documentary about your journey. Thought it was awesome. And both you and your Pacers teammates, including Jermaine O'Neal, who was the captain of the team, both of you in the documentary talk about there was a rift in the locker room, as far as the relationships, the friendships, or the lack thereof. And by the time you were in with the Pacers, you were clearly talented at your craft. But how did dealing with whatever was going on with mental health make it hard for you to connect and develop real relationships with your teammates, or them to truly understand you?
That's a great question. I mean, everything I talked about, you gotta think about these practices, high level practices. Everywhere I went, practice was at a high level. And so for me, I couldn't tell the difference between a practice and a game. So if I'm going to get you in practice, like you're not my friend, like, you know, I'm going at your head, and I couldn't tell the difference, you know. And so and then if we have an issue in practice or whatever, I would take that off the court, where my friends are going to lunch after, they cool, and I'm like, nah, see you tomorrow. And then it wasn't until years, like 10 years later, actually not even when at the Lakers, the same thing with the Lakers, like I've never had lunch with Kobe. You know, even Lamar Odom, we've known each other since we were 13.
Right, didn't y'all come up together?
We played on the same team, AAU ball, and got drafted together. But once we played against each other in the league, there was I was taught no friends.
Do you regret that? The
I
fact
do.
that you couldn't connect with brothers you went to war with on the court?
I had lunch with Lamar for the first time since 1997, 99, like a month ago. And we talked about it. We actually talked about it. We were that competitive. You know, and I'm like, it's just not. I could change anything, what would be that? It would be like, let's compete, but then let's go get like a Jersey subs, like something. Jersey Mike's, something it's called.
Let's stay in the Pacers conversation. We're going to address a low and a high. Let's start with the low, and let's talk about Malice in the Palace. So, for those of you who don't know, just a quick scene set for you. It's the Indiana Pacers. They're in Detroit playing the Pistons. This is an early season game in November. It's actually November 19th, 2004. The game is over. The Pistons are up 15 points.
No, we're up. Yeah, we were blowing them out.
Oh, okay. Am I correct? Are you correct?
We were blowing them out.
Okay, so the game is over in your favor. And they actually had to call it with 45 seconds left in the game because a melee, erupts. And so, feel free to correct me in your recollection of events. I'll share it as I saw it. The game is chippy. At the end, you have a hard foul on Ben Wallace.
It wasn't hard. It was very mild. It was mild.
Okay, absolutely. And it wasn't due to a collection of events that led up. No, okay. So Ben Wallace pushes you straight in the chest.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to fact check with you on each statement. So Ben Wallace pushes you right in the chest. You, recognizing the assault, you try to, I'm assuming, de-escalate by walking away and going to lay down on the scorer's table. Correct?
Correct.
So now Metta is laying on his back on the scorer's table. Fans are starting to throw things, and a beer or a cup of drink hits you.
In the face.
In the face. And you proceed to jump the scorer's table and go into the crowd.
Like Superman.
And you begin to fight with the fans. You actually, unfortunately, hit the wrong guy. You hit a kid.
No, he was right. It wasn't a kid.
Okay.
It wasn't a kid. He was a grown man. He bet $50 that I couldn't get hit with a cup of beer.
And that actually was shown in the documentary as well. There were a number of people who were in cahoots. But as soon as you went to the stands and punches were thrown, all the fans then jump around you and swarm you. And then those same teammates who you never went to lunch with, they came into the stands to have your back.
Yeah.
So shout out to Steven Jackson,
Jermaine
O'Neal, but they came back there to have your back. So now there's 3, NBA players in the stands who are fighting with fans. This is unheard of, and certainly not behavior that is ever wanted to be seen in a game. And after you guys get pulled out of the stands, another kind of altercation occurs on the court. Another fan approaches Metta. 2 fans, and you make contact and swing and hit that fan with a punch as well.
Right cross.
And it was just madness. So what I'd like to ask about that moment that has been long talked about and is a moment in history forever for the NBA.
Yeah.
What do you remember about how your mind was processing things in that moment and your ability to make decisions in that moment?
That moment was interesting because that just had something to do with somebody disrespecting you at your workplace. You know, I'm at my workplace and you just threw beer in my face. I think anybody would react that way. You know, if I'm working at Starbucks and giving you coffee, don't throw it back in my face for what? You know, I'm at my workplace. I ain't serving you. I'm entertaining you. But you know, it was really interesting because when I left Ben, because I didn't really want to fight. Some people said I should have just fought Ben, but I'm like, I've done that so many times. I'm trying not to fight anymore. You know, so people said, you know, I ran. So I said, okay, I'll take that. But the only reason I saw the gentleman is because when I got hit with the bear in my face, I seen somebody's hand go like this, and he was cheering, but there was nobody else cheering. So I went into the right direction, and then when I kind of pushed him and was like, don't you ever throw nothing in my face again, then the other fan came and grabbed me, punched me in my face, all that stuff. That's when it really broke out. But the way they edited it was they just showed me running. They didn't really show that until, you know, I think 20 years later, when they really showed everything. But you know, so as I went back on the court, you know, then two other fans, I'm like, I'm on the court, and I'm just like looking around, making sure nobody's coming to get me. And I'm just like, oh no, what is this? I'm like, I have no way that two more people is coming, fist ball. So then I threw the right cross, you know, because my dad was a pro boxer. So I kind of knew you keep your feet planted, but it was really slippery. So that's why you saw Jermaine throw the punch and slip. And so as these fans tackled me and jumped me, you know, so I think like that situation sometimes it gets a little bit out of context because it had nothing to do with mental health. It was just a fight. It was a fight, but there's a lot of things leading up to that. Like if I could do it over, would I have just like cursed the fan out? Ideally, I would just curse him out. Like, you know, why did you throw a cup of beer at me, you idiot, and you can figure out the rest of the words. But, you know, it definitely taught me about control. Like, any point in time, no matter what, you know, it just destroyed a year, another defensive player of the year. So from a career perspective, you know, it wasn't the best, you know, situation. But I don't know how I would have done that differently. You know, I wish I could have done it differently, but at that age, I don't know what I would have done differently.
Yeah, you went on to be suspended indefinitely for the rest of the season, and then for playoffs, you missed 86 games. It was the longest suspension. If you could put in NBA history, if you could put it into perspective, though, you were just Defensive Player of the Year before, and
at 23 years old.
At 23, and then that season, you had played 7 games. You were averaging 25 points per game.
Yeah.
So for me, with my journalist hat on, I'm always thinking about how things can affect a trajectory. Could you imagine what
season.
you were in? You were absolutely there. What could have happened to your career had that moment not happened?
Well, I think like, you know, when you look at the year I had before that, it was third team on NBA. I was averaging only 18. But it's a lot of points, right? 18 points. Defensive Player of the Year, third team on NBA, first team on defense. I come back averaging 7 points more. So now they can't guard me, and I'm still locking up. And this is unheard of. You're talking about everybody at that point in time. Everybody was knowing, all the Hall of Famers. And when you look at the clips, when you look at the highlights of that season, you'll see a lot of Hall of Famers not coming next to me to guard me, because they couldn't. It was too easy, too light. You know, at that point. So I say that because it definitely changed things a little bit. And then I wanted to retire. I gained a little weight. I was still pretty good after that. I was still good, but you know, I got up to 273. I actually put in my retirement papers. But as I got back into shape, I was still pretty good and still made all defensive teams. And then you know what? When I won the championship, I did pretty well. I still played pretty well, but I think it would have been a little bit different if it wasn't for that.
You know, in our society, when major events like this happen, a lot of times you get put in a box. And in all of our lives, there are narratives about that become permanent or seem permanent for us. And I'm curious, after something like that, how did you reclaim your story and your dignity after a narrative that could have easily been what defined you for the rest of your life? We're here at Fountain House because your story is one of success. And what were the steps you took to take back control of who the world knew Metta World Peace or Ron Artest to be?
Yeah, but I thought like the way they were trying to smash me, media, I didn't really know what was happening. This is happening. You're going out. Everybody's hearing things, seeing things. I see it differently. But the way the edit was, it made it look like to the people that's only waking up, working their regular jobs. They don't have nothing to do. They wake up their jobs, they watch TV, and they see something, they have an opinion, they go talk about it. The problem was that the edit showed me looking like an animal going into the stands when they didn't really show, the people jumping me and throwing beer in my face and throwing chairs at us.
So you don't regret what happened in Malice in the Palace?
I mean, no, not really. It wasn't my fault. I didn't say, hey, hit me with a cup of beer, let's go. I was doing my job, trying to make money for my family. But what it did teach me was that I have to set my narrative, because I was already doing a lot of philanthropic work at that time. I've been doing philanthropy work for a long time. So I said, I need to fight another way, not physically. I need to fight with education. I need to fight with a different narrative. And now, everybody that was calling me thug and all this stuff, they're not doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I'm on board at UCLA Psych Ward, doing a lot of the mental health space, doing not just collecting checks, like actually making impact. Prepping for a Nobel Peace Prize, doing a lot of great things. Putting myself in position to do it and continuing. So for me, it's about that's the fight. And I learned how to fight a different way instead of it just being physical.
And you have that confidence because you're putting in the work.
Absolutely.
All right, I told you we were going to discuss one low, we're going to discuss one high.
Okay.
And it's a real career arc for you. We think about all that you've overcome in your life and your career. We're going to fast forward to 2010. The Lakers defeated the Boston Celtics at Game 7 of the 2010 NBA Finals. You win your first NBA title. And you alluded to it earlier, but you famously thanked your psychiatrist, and you said, hey, she helped me to relax. Actually, I think everyone in the room needs to see that moment. Let's take a look. Sorry for the ads.
Ron, on a night where Kobe Bryant, his best attribute for most of the night was rebounding, what kind of satisfaction do you and Hal take that you were able to support him tonight?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody in my hood, on my wife, my family, my kids, everybody. I definitely want to thank my doctor, Dr. Sandy, my psychiatrist. She really helped me relax a lot. Thank you so much. It's so difficult to play with so much commotion going on in the playoffs, but she helped me relax. I thank you so much.
Ron, you were able to
get that three.
Yes, that was a huge shot. You were late three. Yes, no question. Ron, again.
When my single coming out, I got a single gold champion. I got a single gold champion.
Oh my God, Ron! Oh my gosh, so okay, this happened during a time where there was still so much stigma with mental health, especially in sports, and on this huge stage, you decided to thank your psychologist. Why do you think you did that in the moment, and how much impact do you think that moment has had now since?
Well, I definitely I thank God. I thank God like 15 years later. I forgot to thank God for this. So I did do that. And I just wanted to, just really thank her. I tried to launch a program in 2007 where I was going to do a therapy session with a bunch of teenagers, round table, because it was so expensive to pay for therapy. So I wanted to do a session, different problems, and you can push that content out, and then people they can help people without having to pay if you don't have insurance. So that was something I was working on way back when. I wasn't really getting the support to really push that type of content out. You know, I was getting support to do a reality show and get drunk and just talk smack. I was getting support behind that. You know, they'll put pilot money up, but I wasn't getting support for social impact content, right? Now, yeah, I might be ratchet. I know I can speak the slang. I'm from Queensbridge, right? But it's not the narrative I'm trying to push out, right? So I said, okay, I gotta start using stages.
You were intentional. You knew you wanted to, you were deliberate. You knew you wanted to thank her before that moment happened?
I already been doing a lot in the city of Los Angeles. I'm from New York, so people see me differently, but in Los Angeles, I'm fresh and new. So I was doing a lot in the mental health space in Los Angeles that whole season, right? So now I didn't know it was gonna have that big of an impact. I mean, I had therapists coming up to me, around my test at the time, thank you. Like, for what? Oh, I got more clients, I'm making more money. And this is like ongoing for years and years and years. I didn't think it was gonna have that big of an impact.
Yeah. You know, you said she helped you relax. You hit a huge 3 in that game. Can you talk about what the technique, the work was to step into that shot and knock it down?
It was really a lot of breath work, you know, because sometimes it's not that I was ever afraid to take a shot, but I take a lot of shots. Kobe actually makes them. There's a difference when Kobe makes big shots. Michael Jordan makes big shots. What's the difference between their mental state and then someone else's? And sometimes, you know, things can be on your mind, right? Sometimes, so as I learned how to breathe and I learned about my chakras, you know, and just different techniques. And that was just all fundamentals and things we worked on. So in that moment, it's all about flow, right? I've been practicing for years and years and years. What am I worried about? You know, and it's just different technique. We had one technique we practiced where we would look down back at the earth, say we're putting ourselves somewhere else in the galaxy. And every problem we have is not that important. We're not saying you're not important. We're saying that some people just don't know, right? If you're having a problem. And then also, on the flip side, why are you worried? Some people don't even care. You're worried about somebody that's not even watching the game, right? So sometimes we are worried about so many other things. We're not in the moment. And then so, as I was working on, you know, that's why when Kobe passed it, he was like looking for a back, but I'm in the flow. You just gave it to me. So I'm about to do something with this, right? And then, you know, so it just flowed. It wasn't a hesitation. It was just a movement. And that taught me a lot about myself. It just taught me to continue to bet on myself and continue to move forward with intent and with passion.
I have 2 more questions before we open it up to quick Q&A from the audience. You have become a mental health advocate and a leader in the space. You know, obviously you changed your name famously from Ron Artest to Metta World Peace. And, you know, I've read that it's to inspire the youth, and you chose the name Metta, a traditional Buddhist term meaning love, kindness, and friendliness to all. And now you have your foundation, your Artest Education Foundation. I'd love to know about your why, your goal in starting this foundation and what you're trying to do.
Well, years ago, since 2007, we had the EIN number. It was called Excel University. Somebody paid for me to go to LaSalle Academy. I thought I'll pay it back, so I just started to pay for kids to go to school. I had 2 college scholarships that I paid out of my pocket, and a bunch of high school scholarships that I paid out of my pocket. I didn't know what a 501c3 was back then. Okay? As I learned what a 501c3 was, I said I might as well be at university. I'm always thinking like, I'm trying to always do something big as a visionary, not as an execution type of person or an operator. Now it's different, right? But, so, you know, we changed it to Artest University over the last like 10 years. And initially it was education, but then it became mental health. You know, the why changed. But I think the core of the why never changed. You know, why was I trying to become an architect major? Because I wanted to build community centers in New York City. That's the only reason my first major was architecture. You know, so I always tried to have that mission. And so, but over the years, things happened. We decided, we have Kate here, who's head of our 501c3 at the Artest Education Foundation. Then my dad has the Artest Foundation. The Artest Foundation is focused more on kids, sports in New York City. And then our Test Education Foundation is more focused on curriculum, preparing students and athletes for life through mentorship, apprenticeship, intervention. So my why is, it's still that educating through literacy, real life, through real life experiences. And obviously, the better, sometimes your economic situation could affect your mental health. It shouldn't, but it's a thing because they make us dependent. So we have to make sure we're providing the tools to our children. I didn't have these tools out, and I'm now running a firm. Yeah, the former CEO, Ros Gold-Onwude was my CEO. I didn't know how to do this back then. I didn't know that Long Island City was going to be was developing. Now we got kids right now that's going to be millionaires. They need to understand what's happening, where you could be placing your capital, or foreigners are going to come here, and we're never going to be able to grow economically. So it's a little bit of that to kind of stop the cycle, on the economic side, the financial side, and there's also family therapy. We got something now that we're doing called financial therapy. We also, I actually introduced another form of therapy. It's called family therapy. The athletes, sometimes we're on the court, but our families are not doing well. So there should be insurance for the families, and then empowering the families to manage you. I'll end with this, I can go on and on, but one of the things is, after you finish paying your accountant $30,000, $40,000 a month, whatever it is, when you are not making money no more, and the accountant goes away, well, who has the skill set, right, to manage these finances? Well, what happens now? You start to make mistakes, interest rates, inflation, and different things like that, depression, right? So for me, it's about, sometimes people say you're doing too much. I say I'm not doing enough, right? I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. And if I can bring structure and the infrastructure to be able to do more, and that's kind of what I built over the years. So there's a why, and the passion just drives me. I don't get in the way of my passion. I stay out its way. It's passionate. Yeah. Fast forwarding, we got 40 companies in the portfolio these days. I couldn't do that back then, and then managing so much.
Amazing work. Can we give it up for that? We are Test Education Foundation, and all of the ways that you have thought about serving the full lives of people that come from communities like yourself, but all sorts of youth and people. The last thing I want to point out is that last week, guys, in Los Angeles, on May 15th, in this year of 2026, the city of Los Angeles declared that day Metta World Peace Day. For being an outspoken advocate for mental health and the entire space and awareness of it. Absolutely incredible. So I'll leave you with this question. We can take, a couple questions. Despite the adversity that you saw in life at times, whether it was growing up in the projects of Queensbridge, the things that you may have dealt with as you figured out your mental health journey, altercations, this and that, the one thing that's consistent is you've been radiant. People love you, and what is it about you that has allowed people to love your soul, to see you as the full and entire person, to find you as someone with a big heart and as an inspiration, so much so they'd name a day after you in a city?
I know, they used to hate me in Los Angeles. And I was locking people up. And then they loved me when we won, but what they saw was I quickly got involved in the community. I quickly got involved in giving back. My time was available, too much time, honestly. I would do anything anybody asked if it was good. And I think, just being open and vulnerable, my past is the past. Sometimes you'll go through things, but what I learned was, just because I'm going through something, I don't need to bring you down. Yeah, I might not be feeling good, but you're not gonna know that, right? And then I've been doing that for a long time, and the narratives. And sometimes life is set. Sometimes life is set up for us to judge, and then I automatically assume you think this way about me. And I started to say, I'm not judging you anymore. I'm gonna meet people. I'm not gonna let any media persuade my kind of thought process or how I view you different skin color, different gender. I don't care. I'm gonna meet you, and then at that point, I'm gonna judge how. So I learned that about myself, and I think it's all about bringing people together. And I think sometimes people can't force the narrative. They want you to believe something. But I'm like, no. I'm gonna actually fight back by telling my narrative. And it's been really difficult because you're going up against people that, like I said, want you to do a reality show just to get drunk, get ratings, and yeah, you make millions, but I didn't impact nobody. You know, I didn't change your life, you know, by me making money and you watching me get drunk on television. You know, so it's that type of stuff that people don't see. So I think I was able to not try to satisfy people who just want to make me look like a clown. I don't mind looking like a clown sometime on my own time. on my time, I might want to tell a joke and just tell a friend. I like jokes, but not too much where it's making me look like a buffoon, right? And I gotta continue to inspire. So, you know, I think that's what the city of Los Angeles likes for me, and I think hopefully we can carry that over to New York City, where I'm from.
We have time for a couple questions, maybe two, right here in the front.
Yeah.
You can share your name and.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Rucker. I'm a member here. I know you have such a dynamic career, and I think it's really impressive. And I'm wondering, what do you want your legacy to look like at this point?
You know, I don't really care about my legacy, but I do want to leave a legacy because I stopped worrying about, you know, what people think. I had to because everybody had opinions. And then also, I'm not necessarily looking for recognition. Now, if you want to give me a statue in Clinton's Bridge, that's okay. But I'm not necessarily looking for it. I'm more worried about, like, how are we leaving this future for our children? You know, like, that's what, you know, and also, how are we helping our elders exit at the end of life? Is end of life good for our elderly? You see what I'm saying? That's what's important. It should not be difficult. You know, it should not be seeing, you know, at the end of life you're on your last and some war just happened. What? Like, good. That's not peaceful, right? So I'm more interested in that, and that is a fight that I love. You know, and that's why pushing this positivity from my passion. You know, it's you know, I think that it comes across different sometimes, but that's the fight that I'm fighting. You know, because I think the kids deserve it. I think everybody deserves happiness. I think, you know, end of life, you deserve your end of life to be a really great end of life. And I think the youth deserve, you know, opportunities to connect. You know, we should not be setting up our youth against each other. Like, you should not like this person. We need to really bring people together. New Heights. No worries. Oh, it's a speaker.
Okay, can you speak up?
Let's come up.
Oh, come on, baby!
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm 19 years old and I play for New Heights girls basketball. And my question was, how do you navigate your journey of being unapologetically yourself? Because I, as a teenager, have struggled with that, especially to the game of ball. And how do you navigate that journey from a young age?
Yeah, I think you gotta be very, good question. Great question. Yeah, I think, like when I changed my name to World Peace, for example, people call me crazy, but I was looking on TV and I seen people being harmed. I saw war. I don't know how crazy that is to talk about world peace, so I don't mind empowering myself. You know, I don't mind telling people I'm seeking therapy because I'm trying to empower myself. I don't care what you think. You know, why would I care that you're laughing at me because I said I'm seeing a psychologist, right? And I'm trying to become not a better person. It don't mean you're a bad person because you're seeking therapy, but I'm just trying to just get my mind right. And so I think you should never worry about what somebody else is thinking. You know, when you're on your own journey, it's not important.
We have time for one more.
Yeah,
Because you don't fight.
what time is it? Okay, let's go. We have 2 more questions.
Hi, I'm Noah, from a member of Fountain House Harlem. I have a question. Like, what is a quote that you tell yourself, like, when you're really down? Like, what's a quote that you tell yourself to keep yourself going?
Well, I think before, maybe it would be some Mary J. Blige, honestly. or SWV. But now, I'm prepared for adversity. I know there will be bumps in the road. Since I know it, when it happens, I'm not surprised. I know there's going to be, because there's always adversity in anything you do, your life, your career, your job, entrepreneurship as an employee, whatever the case may be. If you don't expect problems, that's where it can become an issue. Life is not going to be easy. So just be ready for when those bumps come.
So can you give us your favorite Mary J. Blige lyric and sing it?
I mean, I love Share My World.
Guys, we are out of time. Metta has a flight. Can you give it up one more time? Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much.
I do want to share a story about my Uncle Morris.
Okay, sure.
I do. So, because this is a special day. What time is it?
7:27.
What time is my flight? 9:30. Okay, great. I'm going right in. First class. It's cool. So I do want to share a story about my Uncle Morris. So my Uncle Morris was a member here. I think he was a member here since in the 70s. Was Fountain House around the 70s?
Yes.
Since the 70s. 16 years old, I think he took a bad drug, and then he became schizophrenic from that point on. What a coincidence that you invited me here to the Fountain House. I didn't realize it was the Fountain House until my mom told me you're going to the Fountain House. I knew the title of your show. I didn't know that. But I didn't know it was here. And I also thought I was going to Queens. I didn't know I was coming. And then, all this stuff has happened. And I read the story about my mom. And then my auntie Rosie told me he used to come back here. And she said that they loved him at the Fountain House because he would come back and he would help. And I was like, no way, I'm gonna actually talk to some people at the Fountain House that knows my uncle. And then today I met people that knows my uncle.
Yes.
Can you raise your hand if you met Uncle Morris?
So while he was taking a tour of Fountain House, there were staff members who knew his uncle and were sharing stories with him.
And then so he passed away yesterday at 9 a.m. Right? At 9 a.m. But it was really, I told him I was coming. I said, Uncle, I'm going to the Fountain House. And he actually smiled, and I told people the story, but I want to thank everybody who shared those stories. My Uncle Morris. Dad, you remember the Fountain House? Because you remember, I was a kid, I was like, I want to go to the Fountain House. What's the Fountain House? So I got this shirt. This is incredible. I just wanted to share that story. This is a special day because, it's sad, but it's also like, wow, like we are here. Like, this is incredible. So he still lives on, and thank you so much.
I can't believe it. What an uncanny coincidence in timing, and it feels almost kind of divine in a way. You are here at Fountain House, paying tribute and in many ways honoring your Uncle Morris. You're honoring the community, the mental health community, for pulling up for me. He flew out here to do this. He's on a flight back to LA. Thank you for doing this for Fountain House, for the mental health community, for myself, on behalf of my sister Annie. You're a real one. Your heart is big.
Thank you.